welcome back to Cross Politic.
I really missed our music.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
We got Indy Wilson with us in the studio. He's about to break open a can.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, but before you do.
Okay.
So, kind of serious. My mom just, so she had cancer.
Okay.
Multiple myeloma. I can never say that right. And she's been struggling with that the last 4 years or so.
Wow.
Over. And thanks be to God, she's in remission. She had a stem cell transplant. Yeah, where they kind of wash out all your old stem cells and
give you new ones,
energize them, and send them back to your body. And so that's been in remission. So praise God for that. But recently, she's just so guys, pray for my mom. She's just recently found out that she has liver cancer.
Oh, man.
And when she started going through cancer, the first one, I gave her Death by Living, and she was really kind of concerned about that. What about my legacy that I'm leaving for my kids? Yeah. What about, how am I going to make sure you guys have something, I want to pass on a future to you guys. And, my comment to my mom has been, Mom, sowing the word of God into my kids, the way you sown into me, is the best gift that I could have from you.
Yeah.
So come sow into my children with the energy that you have, the life that you have right now. Don't waste it and trying to feel like you need to give us financial things. Come give it to my children in your godly wisdom, So right now she's in a situation where they're kind of concerned that the liver cancer might really take her out.
Yeah.
And so she's decided, she said, I didn't even know how to fight anymore. I was done fighting. And she's just kind of in the place right now where she doesn't know she's going to live for the next 2 years. And I'm trying to help energize her.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help her understand just how valuable she still is. Could you help me with that? Could you help me kind of like, come on, man, you got Death by Living. You wrote a book on the whole thing.
The thing is that as far as you valuing her, that's what matters.
Yeah.
That matters a lot more than her valuing herself.
Yeah.
So if she is exhausted or fatigued, you honoring her and respecting her and praising her and loving her is the most important thing you can do.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to motivate her, there's a time for that. But what she needs in those kind of situations, when your gas tank runs down all the way and you're on empty, you don't need somebody saying, "Hey, fill that up." It's like, come on now, let's fill that up. You fill it up.
Yeah.
It's like you pour on that affection and respect and honor and gratitude, knowing that we're all here briefly.
Yeah.
All of us are. And brushes with mortality are a very, very healthy thing for all of us and for people who are standing around it too. So, you use the time wisely.
And I think one of the ways you do that too is you keep telling, when God gives life, until the very last breath, until the very last heartbeat, he's giving life.
Yep.
No matter how weak it seems, how frail and fragile it seems, he's still giving life through that life. And this is one of the things that I wrestled with when my father-in-law, he had multiple myeloma. He passed away from that.
Yeah, I remember that.
2.5 years ago. And he's one of those grandpas, those granddads that's like, taking the grandsons fishing, loves the history of the land, like he had dreams of being that grandpa to my kids, and I think he wrestled with it. We all wrestled with like, oh, the Lord's not going to give that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that wasn't because that God wasn't giving us something. He decided to give us something different.
Yeah.
And so he gave us the gift of watching my father-in-law walk through this with courage.
Yeah.
In his weakness. And so it wasn't a matter of us necessarily saying, trying to give him a pep talk.
Right.
But it was a matter of saying, you are still giving.
Yeah.
And he did. Like all the way to the end, he was giving by just being there.
Yeah.
Even in his weakness, he was and ultimately that's because Christ was in him. And so Christ is giving life through him, even in a broken and a breaking body.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember, like right at the very, very end, I was staying over at their house nights sometime just so I could give my mother-in-law a chance to sleep through the night because he couldn't sleep through the night. And so I'd stay nights sometimes and help him in the evening because he couldn't lay down very long and he just was in a lot of pain and he'd want to get up and stand. And it was just like, 45, 50-minute walk down the hallway with him. It was so slow. It was hilarious. And, but man, there were several nights where like he would just say something funny and we would just die laughing at like 3 a.m. in a hallway.
Yeah.
And he, you know, and we just knew like, that's God still giving life through a dying man
In that moment. Yeah.
in that moment. And he was giving something different. And that's, I think, one of the crucial things is to tell people who are going through those things, you're still giving. While God's given you life, there's still life flowing from you.
Yeah. And it's a big part of the point of Death by Living was the fact that we're all dying.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in this country, this time, we love to pretend like we're not. We love to try to hide mortality elsewhere. We quarantine death completely.
It's over there.
Yeah, we try to. So
It's in nursing
we're all
homes.
dying.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you've been given, you know, basically a savings account of heartbeats. There's a fixed number of heartbeats that you've been given, and we're all spending them at the same rate. Like we're all just spending through it. And we don't know how many we've been given. And then sometimes God tells people like, "Hey, you're running out." Sometimes we don't even know. Nobody
It
knows.
just happens.
It's just
happens.
Right.
Yeah,
and so I do think there is a specific gift. It's hard, it's brutal, but there's a specific gift to having some kind of knowledge of like, okay, we're coming to the finish line.
Yeah.
Now we know to treasure these heartbeats
Yes.
right now, and for the people around you to treasure them too, as opposed to it being sudden, you know, and later. At the same time, the other thing that's hard is any kind of gratitude. You know, it's like we can get ungrateful very, very easily.
So
And
easily.
we are all like Powerball winners. Like, imagine winning Powerball when it was only $40 million. Then you're looking at a Powerball winner who won it when it was $400 million. And you're like, oh, you chump. Like, why did I have to win Powerball when it was only 40 million? None of us did anything to deserve to exist.
Right.
None of us did anything to deserve any of the relationships we have, to deserve any of our senses, our hands, our eyes, our tongues, any of the wine we've drunk, any of the food we've eaten. I mean, God invented flavor and taste buds and enabled that combination. It's like we are all Powerball winners, all of us.
That's right. Amen.
It's the odds of us existing are astronomically low.
And we get discontent when someone has 2 ears they can hear with.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I can be like, darn it, my left ear's gone. I still have a right ear, but I also had that left ear for a good 38 years. Unlike Gabe. So, you know, I won a little bit more Powerball than he did. Just a scooch.
Yeah.
But it's very easy for us to be jackpot winners, all of us jackpot winners, even if we have a really hard life.
Right.
Yeah.
We're jackpot winners and we don't see it. We always are looking at what somebody else got. You know,
The subtitle to your book is Life is Meant to be Spent.
right.
What does that mean?
Well, it's what I was just saying about heartbeats. You're given wealth, you're given life like a resource, and you cannot keep it. It's all going to be spent,
Right.
all of it, and it's just a question of how you spend it. So, do you spend it trying not to spend it? Like, guess
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
You can't save it. Yeah.
You're still spending one heartbeat. Just bum 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 bum. It's just
It's like
draining.
sand.
It's just going. Yeah, you get the sand's going.
Are you going to
it's
spend
going.
that heartbeat on the couch, or are you going to spend it
yes.
laying your life on the court?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah. So how are you going to spend it? On the court.
The basketball court.
Absolutely.
The court of God.
Yes. Are you gonna be? Yeah, exactly. So there's basically you've been given this big account,
Right.
like this big resource, the ultimate natural resource, which is to be made in the image of God, to be given and really an eternal soul, like to be given the promise of resurrection, and to be given a window on this planet. Like, and you have those resources. They're all going away. All of them.
Right.
It's like saving them is not an option. They're all going away. How do you spend it? Like you've been told to spend. So if you get given that jackpot and you're told, and also you can't keep any of it.
Right.
Like, so here's your Powerball check and
Right.
you can't keep any of it. Spend it.
Right.
That's what we're supposed to do with our lives.
And this is why this is my favorite book that you've written. My kids love all your literature, and I love
Hello
reading
Ninja,
it.
especially.
Hello Ninja. Yeah.
I thought that would be your favorite game.
I can read that in an hour.
It's my favorite.
It takes me an hour. But because Death by Living, I think, really changed my perspective on how I'm growing up to be a father, a businessman, a husband. Instead of growing up trying to accumulate wealth and trying to store it away, it changed my perspective. It was more about like just leaving it on the court, leaving the wealth behind, giving it to your sons, giving it to your wife, giving it to, and most people, you know, as they grow up, they're like, man, I want to have my boat and I want to have more of this, you know, wealth for myself. I want to be able to retire when I'm 55. I want, you know, it's all becomes about how they can kind of over time store up for them and their own selves. And of course their family's with them. Their family gets to go along with that ride, but it's the exact opposite. It's the more you grow up, the more you give.
Yeah. So maybe make this a little more practical. So how does this vision of life differ from, like, say, you know, living the American dream? Like, you know,
well, if we talk about like a pure American dream, those two things are not contradictory.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're talking about trying to build something,
right.
You know, it's like acquire land. But if I'm trying to acquire land, which I am, like, for whom am I doing that? It's like, is it for grandkids? You know, it's like when I just was giving advice to another guy who was like, I'm not sure if I should just sell this chunk of dirt off. And I said, no grandkid has ever said, I wish grandpa didn't buy so much land. Like, ever.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Like, if you look at it through somebody else's eyes downstream from you, instead of you right now, I could sell this land and get a boat. I could sell this land, do a little more fishing. Like, I could consume more personally. I could personally taste all of it.
Yeah.
And leave nothing for my kids or leave nothing for my grandkids, or I can continue to lay out and accumulate. So I have no problem with accumulation when it's accumulation for someone else. Like, if you're not thinking about, like, how do I hang on to this for myself? If you have a generational vision when you're doing it, that's a very different thing. So the American dream isn't really that now. That's not how it's defined now.
Maybe it used to be more like that. I don't know.
It could be. Yeah. But at the same time, I think the most important aspect of this is realizing that your final chapters, like what you think of as your final chapters, or even your middle chapters, middle life, you know, later life, are all the earlier chapters in other people's books. Do not think do not think of yourself as the hero of your own novel. Like, think of yourself as a side character in the beginning of other people's.
Oh man.
So especially with your own kids. So right now, you know, we all have kids. And right now, like, you're in like chapter 2, chapter 3 of their life stories.
Yeah.
Right.
And a big part of that is, what was their dad like?
Right.
Like, when you're telling the story of, like, any historical figure, what was their father like? What was their relationship like to their father? How did their father behave?
Right.
Like, is the essential groundwork and foundation to their life story.
Right.
In those early years. So instead of seeing ourselves as like, oh man, I'm getting towards retirement, or, oh man, how do I get more money so that I can vacation more often, you know, think of yourself as like, okay, I'm writing these early chapters of somebody else's story.
Yeah, that's great.
And God is terrifying, absolutely terrifying, in that he gives us immortals, like eternal souls. Here are these little people. And
you get 20 years.
Yeah. Here. And I've said in the book also, like, take the most absurd avant-garde performance artist out there and say, hey, we're going to give you a human being and control their reality and create their childhood and their life story for the first 18 years of their life. Yeah. It'd be illegal. It's like, you're not allowed to do that. And God just
does that all,
gives
every day.
Yeah.
Such high stakes gifts. I mean, he gives vast wealth, and he gives us these people.
Ain't that the truth?
He gives us these little people who will live forever. And we have them just around us, and we're thinking instead about, what am I going to do with my Monday?
Yeah, right.
You know, it's like, and we're trying to get ahead. So, Death by Living for me was like the book is a conscious look at my own ancestors and those things that they did, who made them who they were, which became very much part of my psyche as a kid,
right?
Because of how they related to me and what they prioritized and how they loved and how they lived. And then turning and looking downstream. So you look upstream at the people who came before, and then you turn and look downstream and realize
they're living early chapters in your life. Yeah. And then it helps you look at your life
and how I'm going to, lay down my life and spend it. How am I going to burn my heartbeats in their early chapters?
Just to piggyback on that, that was one of the reasons too, where I remember that in the book, and I remember reading, I remember thinking there's no excuse for your history, right? Like, everyone has a history that's different. Some have better histories, and some are starting a new one. But I think a lot of times, especially for me, and I think people in my culture, there's a bitterness to our history because we don't have what we see. Like, again, he has more of the Powerball, Lord. You know,
Right, yeah.
things are going better over there for them.
Why did I win the $1 million jackpot?
Exactly.
So,
No, forget
yeah.
it. I won $10,000 from a scratch off.
Yes, yeah. I'm going to the million. I'm going to the million, David.
You know, and so you're looking at it and you're like, oh, great. How's it? But there's no responsibility to say, okay, this is the foundation I'm building now. Right now, the story that I'm in now, I can change that. Like right now, I'm going to give my life for my children. Right now, I'm going to give my life to the Lord. Right now, I'm going to give my life to building a future. Right. And so that helped me kind of forgive, right? Some of the things that my parents, my grandparents or whatever, that they didn't buy that land, you know, and say, okay, now where can you change that? So they can look back on and say, hey, you know what? We're going to kiss Granddaddy's picture. Listen, and I was like, love you, Granddaddy.
Yeah.
Love what you did, you know?
The other thing is the most important lesson there when you think, man, I wish my granddad had bought land is get land.
Then buy land.
Whatever you wish that your
he still
ancestors
taught you something.
Well, yeah, exactly. But also whatever you wish your ancestors had done for you.
Do it.
Like whatever you wish, you better be doing for your descendants, or else you're a hypocrite. You're a total hypocrite.
That's right.
Anything you wish that people before you had done.
Yep.
If you wish your parents had behaved a certain way, or your mom or your dad had behaved a certain way, it's like you better not be failing to pass on that wish.
It doesn't justify your complaining.
So exactly. So as far as it goes, you know, my grandfather survived World War II.
Yeah.
Lots of other people's grandfathers did not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, so there's an amazing gift there.
Yeah.
I got to see him in old age as a very hard man. I mean, a very hard man soften. And eventually I got to, sit at Coeur d'Alene like as a kid and watch him baptized.
Wow.
It's like, so, it's like there was all sorts of things back there to be unhappy with, but we're called to honor. So we're not supposed to honor those things that were their mistakes or the things that were dishonorable.
That's good.
But we're still supposed to honor our fathers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like we honor them and we find what we can learn from them. So, and then on the other side, my dad's dad was a radical, crazy evangelist who squandered all his material resources completely and utterly. And he really did. And did that with an absolute priority on the spiritual resources, the spiritual wealth.
Right.
So to have all of his grandchildren and great-grandchildren be faithful believers right now, all of them is remarkable.
Oh, man. Amen.
It's like he has not lost a grandchild.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
right.
Praise God.
And that's remarkable. So
that's where he invested.
yeah, did he sell his house in Michigan and take all the equity and buy books? Yes.
Yeah.
He did. And he put those
Wow.
books in a van and drove to Idaho and gave a ton of them away.
Right.
It's like
Wow.
that's where he was spending his heartbeat, spending his resources. So does he have a bunch of wealth? Do we have trust funds? No, he's not. Is he poor? Yes. Are we incredibly wealthy and blessed? Yes.
Yeah.
Like as a result of that.
That's right.
As a
Right.
result of the way he lived. So
Amen.
and on the flip side, the other. So as far as it goes, look upstream, honor those who, are your fathers, because the Bible tells you to. It's very simple. Honor them.
What are you working on now, Nate?
I'm working on a preschool animated TV show for Netflix.
Hey.
Oh, cool.
Trying to close a feature film with Lionsgate.
Okay.
Let's do it.
That's great, man.
Or I should say closing a feature film with Lionsgate. And trying to get a theatrical release date for a nature documentary. So those are the priorities right now. And post surgery, I feel like I haven't really worked, but I've gotten a lot done since brain surgery. But
like walking.
I stand up now.
I can stand up. Not dizzy
So
too much.
I'm supposed to be doing, a lot of therapy twice a day and sleeping as much as possible because apparently that's the only way a brain repairs.
Oh,
It's sleep. Yeah.
really?
It's like they're like, yeah, unless you're in REM sleep, nothing's happening.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
So yeah, it's still stupid. I have to be monitored. The doctors have these, this app they can log in on Wi-Fi and check everything about my sleep and whether it's happening. It's
happening
weird.
or not?
Yeah, so
They put a chip in your brain. They're tracking you.
I had to wear stupid gear. It's like, Anyway, I'm glad to be alive. So
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Stupid gear. Stupid
I'm
gear.
thankful.
But so there's that. But it is basically what I'm working on right now is trying to get up to full speed. And they told me that after a year, what is, and what I don't get back in a year,
I'm just not
So you're fighting right now to get a lot back, huh?
Yeah. And my wife has been calling me on it, she's doing good work on a wifely basis.
Because she wants you to heal.
Yeah, but she's telling me
Heather.
she was telling me basically that she thought I was doing was adjusting and accommodating myself. Like I felt like, I'm improving. Like I feel better. I'm not falling down.
Right.
It's like, but she says, but you're doing workarounds.
Yeah.
It's like,
which is not quite the same thing as
not the same thing as healing.
Yeah.
So
that rib works pretty good, don't it?
So I actually just yesterday was in with a mean Swedish vestibular therapist who basically confirmed all my wife's suspicions. It's like
Swedes.
It's like, you're not improving. You think you are, but you're not.
Oh, man.
Well, praise God, man.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
So pray for Nate, y'all.
That I will, in fact, actually do all the things that make me nauseous.
And you have a new book out. It's called The Door Before.
Yes, The Door Before is a prequel to 100 Cupboards, and then the Outlaws of Time trilogy.
Yeah.
So the thing that I have actually been working on, really, is that I turned in the final book of the Outlaws of Time trilogy. Woo. Final draft, final book.
Oh, man.
Go buy
Last of the Lost Boys will come out in the spring.
My son loves those books, man.
So, and Door Before, just out.
Go buy them. Buy them. Death
buy them
by
all.
Living.
So I can sleep.
Yes. Yes.
Until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
Cheers.